I'm Simon. I'm one of the leaders here at King's Community Church, Norwich. Thank you for joining us in the next of our daily devotionals. If you are new and have recently discovered us online, then a welcome and I thank you for joining us. And if you've been with us on this journey for a while, hello. We just hope you find the hope and encouragement you need as we dig into God's word and look at to say what he's got to say about this time, this place and this world. We're carrying on today with our new series on Acts, looking at that wonderful, wonderful New Testament book that details the early days of the church. But before we go there, what I want to do is just a quick arc of the Bible. A wonderful document, a wonderful story of God's love for people, beginning in Genesis, ending in Revelation. At the beginning of the book of Genesis 1, 2 and 3 detail how God made this world, intentionally, lovingly put it together, created it, and it was good. Chapter 2 talks about how God fashioned the relationship between men and women and himself, forged that relationship between a togetherness in the Garden of Eden, together, enjoying the cool of the day, enjoying time, enjoying being together. God with human beings, relationships happening. It details as well how for the man and the woman there was nothing between them. There was nothing to hide. There was an openness and a fellowship between them. And then we go to Revelation. Look at Revelation chapter 7 at the other end of the Bible. It points to what is to come. The points to what is to come when God restores his kingdom over all. And a wonderful thing in chapter 7 talking about how all the tribes and all the tongues and all the peoples will be together again before God. Different picture language and imagery to the Garden of Eden. However, before God, together. And in between those two, the world that we're in today, a fallen world. Because Genesis also talks about sin entering the world, the hardness of people's hearts, turning away from God, going their own way. The Bible refers to it as sin. Human beings believing they know better than God, walking to their own beat, making decisions based on their own selfish desires that bring a separation not just between human beings and God, but also between human beings and human beings. It divides, it brings division. But 2,000 years ago, Jesus went to the cross. God incarnate went to the cross to pay a price that we could never pay. We could never make an amends for all those things as humans we do wrong. But God paid that price, settled that debt, meaning the way was open for us to approach God, forgiven by his grace. And the resurrection of Jesus, showing the power by which we live. Death was conquered. Death was conquered. So that we can live day to day in light of knowing we have a conquering God who paid a price for us, that we can approach God, be in relationship with him again, and live in light of his power. And that's the context in which we bring this verse in Acts. And we look at that glimpse of what heaven could be like. The sense of unity that there was in Genesis, the sense of unity there will be in Revelation, we see glimpses of now as God's kingdom is now but not yet. So we're going to turn to Acts 2. We're going to read verses 42 to 47 and just have a glimpse of what happens, what can happen when God is at the forefront of our lives today. So Acts 2, 42 to 47. This is the early church, probably round about 3,000 of them. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to fellowship, and to breaking of bread, and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together, had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give to anyone who had need. And every day, they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God, enjoying the favour of all the people. And the Lord added to their daily those who were being saved. The Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. This wonderful image of the early church is not something that we need to get right in order to approach God. This passage is not saying, here is the recipe by which you can please God and approach. Instead, that second word of that passage, the word devoted, is so central to it. They devoted. Acts 2, verses 42 to 47, is an image of what happens when groups of Christians devote themselves to God. In the book of Matthew and the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells the parable of the wise and foolish builder. He says, someone who builds their life on my teachings is like a wise builder who builds foundations, digs down deep, and then can withstand the storms. Someone who doesn't is like a foolish builder who just puts the bricks on top of the sand, and then when the storms come, it washes the house away. Well, what we've got here in the book of Acts is a picture of what life amongst that storm looks like. Jesus in John 10 verse 10 says, I have come that you might have life and life in all its fullness. And I think here in Acts we're getting a glimpse of what life in all its fullness, life with God, life with the foundations that are dug deep looks like. This isn't a recipe by which we please God, it's a response. That passage opens and says they, the followers, devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings. They devoted themselves to the words of Jesus, to that truth. They saw that truth and responded into it. They then spent time together. They broke bread, and we see in the Gospels that breaking bread is a powerful symbol of acknowledging the truth of the grace of the gift of salvation in our lives, enjoying God's grace. And praying, turning our hearts towards God. And then with this devotion, what's the response? We see a life of extraordinary miracles. It gives the account of God at work supernaturally in the world around them. Healings, lives changed, miracles. There's the unity of friendship that comes with knowing you have the resources to seek the best for others. You're not dependent upon others. You're not looking to others for affirmation. Instead, because these believers knew God was their all, they could serve and enjoy and bless others because they were sorted. Similarly, that sense of serving and provision, looking after each other, knowing that because God provides all our needs, we can look after others because God is looking after us. And this image of enjoying God together, worshipping together, shoulder to shoulder, powerful images. It's a glimpse of what the Garden of Eden would have been like. It's a foreshadowing of what Revelation, what heaven will be like. But it's showing us that that kind of life in all its fullness is ours now. How? By being devoted, by turning our hearts to God, by looking to Him for our satisfaction, for our foundation. Then these things flow. We can face today, family, we can face today devoted to God, looking at His teachings, relying on them, looking to other Christians, those around us who love God, for support, for care, for compassion. We can rely on the grace of God that it is enough for us to approach God, and we can come to Him in prayer, and we can see the kingdom begin to live itself out in our lives and in our communities. Yes, it's a shadow of what heaven will be like. It's a shadow of what it'll be like in God's presence, but life in all its fullness here and now. It looks very different to the Church of Acts 2,000 years ago. But then life around us looks very different to how it did 5-6 months ago. Because God is God. Through the ups, through the downs, through the valleys, through the heights, through whatever community we're in, God saves. Jesus gives us life in all its fullness. So I don't know what time of day you're watching this. If it is, you're catching it at the 8 o'clock live stream. You can head into your day knowing that as followers of Jesus, devoted to His teachings, enjoying His grace, enjoying life with others who know and love Him, we can have this extraordinary community, this extraordinary fellowship, this life in all its fullness. So church family, have a great day. Dig into God. Look to him for those miracles. Look to him for that sense of love. Look to him for provision. Look to him for worship, knowing in him all our needs are met. God bless.